This is section 3.2, part 2, and we're going to continue with what we talked about with the different angle pair types. So my suggestion to you first here is to go ahead and pause the video and go through and see if you can finish the rest of your notes on your own before I go through this, because there's nothing that's new in here. All this stuff is things that we've learned. And this is really just asking questions on whether you know these angles. This first one is a proof type question. But pause it, see if you can fill it out. And if you can fill it out and you're correct on most of them, you're sitting in pretty good shape. If you're not, then those are the things you need to be asking questions on in your WSQ. Okay? So go ahead and hit pause on your video and see if you can try and complete this. Okay, now that you've hit pause on your video and you've went through and completed this, let's go through and talk about the proof here first. And it's not really a proof, it's more just being able to justify why each step it is. So it's sort of kind of a half proof, half do a problem type. Okay, so the first statement here says angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. And if you look at the picture here, we've got angle 1 right here, we've got angle 4 right here, angle 1 right here. And we want to know why they're congruent. Well, what type of angles are these? These are alternate interior angles. So we know that alternate interior angles are congruent. Or if you put the alternate interior angles theorem, that's perfectly fine. Okay. Now, from step 1 to step 2, we go from a congruent sign to an equal sign. So we know if you're looking at your tool belt and you have your tool belt with you, you should be able to say that's the definition of congruent angles. Okay? Definition of congruent angles went from congruent to equals. All right, next step. Step 3 says angle 4 and angle 6 are supplementary. Now, why are they supplementary? They're supplementary because they are a linear pair. So this is an example of the definition of a linear pair. Okay, definition of a linear pair. Now, on the next one, then, they say that the two angles added together now, 4 and 6, 4 plus 6 is equal to 180. So 4 and 6 will add up to be 180. This is the case of the definition of supplementary angles. Okay, definition of supplementary angles. You say that they're supplementary because they're a linear pair, then you can say they add up to be 180. That's definition of supplementary angles. Now, you'll notice from previous steps, from step 4 to step 5, there's one thing that's different, and that's the fact that we changed 4 to a 1. Well, up here we said 4 and 1 were equal, so we can exchange those, and this is a case of substitution. Substitution property. Okay. All right. Now, we go back now all of a sudden to step 6, and step 6 says angle 5, the measure of angle 5 is 105 degrees. Well, it doesn't have anything to tie into 4 or 5 stepwise. So I got to go back and look up at the picture. If I look at the picture, I see that 105 is right here, and I see that angle 5 is right here. What type of angles are those? Well, they're both in the top left of the angle, so these are corresponding angles, and we know that corresponding angles are congruent because the lines are parallel. Okay. Now, angle 6 and angle 5. As you're looking at the picture, angle 6 is right here, angle 105 is right there. These two are equal because they are alternate interior angles. So we know that alternate interior angles are congruent. Okay? You're looking at the positioning of these angles. Now, step 8. The measure of angle 1 plus 105 equals 180. And now, if you look, now you're going back to your previous steps, because you'll notice up here we said up here where things were equal to 180. Well, you'll notice here we said in step 7 that angle 6 is 105. So from step 5 to step 8, we replace the 6 with the 105. This is the substitution property. Okay? And then the final reason, angle 1 is equal to 75 degrees, is the subtraction property, because we subtract 105 from each side to get our measure of angle 1 equals 75 degrees. Okay? So that's kind of a hybrid between a proof and just giving some reasons. Okay, now let's take a look at the second part where it says in the figure, what are the values of x and y? And you're using your different angle types here to recognize that your two parallel lines, or these are the two parallel lines, the top and the bottom. These are the transversal, that happens to be the sides of this shape. And what you'll notice is that these two angles and these two angles, the two angles on the left and the two angles on the right, are both same side interior angles. So we know that 2x plus x minus 12 is going to equal 180. And we also know that 3y plus y plus 20 is also going to equal 180. They're both supplementary because they're same side interior angles. So when I solve these, here you would get a 3x. If I add 12, it'd be 192. And if I were to divide by 3, x is going to be 64. Over on the right side for the y's, I would combine my y's, and if I subtracted 20, that'd be 160. So 4y equals 160. If I divided by y, or divided by 4, y is going to be 40. So you're able to find x and y. Those are same side interior angles. They add up to be 180. Okay? All right, now if you look at the bottom one, the bottom example is a little bit different because of this diagonal right here. Okay, that diagonal line. It cuts into this angle here and it splits it in half. But that's okay because here's our parallel lines. So these two angles, these two right here together, and this one right here are same side interiors again. They're on the same side of the transversal. Okay, the transversal is this line. So they're on the same side of the transversal. So they're going to be supplementary. So I know that y plus 40, that angle together is y plus 40, plus the other angle of 80 is going to equal 180 degrees. So we got y plus 120 equals 180, and y in this case is going to be 60. Okay? So hopefully you were able to pause the video and do this before and see if you're correct. If you're not, then again, those are the questions you need to ask on, so we can get that clarified at the beginning of class. Don't forget to complete your WSQ. This concludes 3.2 Part 2.